When my wife Amy's water broke minutes after I went to bed back in January of 2002, I remember driving her to the hospital and anguishing over one thought: I am never gonna be well rested again. If there's one thing all new parents wish, it's for a good night's sleep. Unfortunately, infants sometimes make that impossible. They wake up repeatedly, needing to be fed, changed, and comforted. Eventually, they reach an age when they should sleep through the night. Some don't, though. What to do with them continues to be a topic of heated debate in parenting circles. That's the topic of this week's Healthcare Triage. One camp believes that babies should be left to cry it out. They should be placed in their cribs at a certain time and in a certain routine and not interfered with until the next morning. No matter how much they scream or cry, parents should ignore them. After all, if they learn that tantrums lead to the appearance of a loved one, they'll only continue that behavior in the future. The official name for this intervention is Extinction, which sounds pretty grim. The downside of Extinction, of course, is that it's unbelievably stressful for parents. Many can't do it. Further, not holding fast to the plan can make everything worse. Responding to an infant's crying after an extended period of time makes the behavior harder to extinguish. For a baby, it's like a slot machine that hits just as you're ready to walk away. It makes you want to play more. A modification of this strategy is known as graduated extinction, which is still pretty grim. There, parents allow their infant to cry it out for a longer period each night, until the infant eventually puts himself to sleep. On the first night, for instance, they might commit to not entering the baby's room for 5 minutes. The next night, 10 minutes, then 15, and so on. Or they could increase the increments on progressive checks each night. For the record, this is what we did. When they do go in the room, it's only to check and make sure the baby's okay. No picking up or comforting. It's not meant to be a reward for crying, but to allow the parents to be assured that nothing is wrong. Another choice is bedtime fading. The point of this plan is to teach your child how to fall asleep on their own at bedtime, in the hope that if they develop this skill, when they wake up in the middle of the night, they'll choose to employ it rather than call for you. With fading, you temporarily set bedtime later than usual and preface it with a good bedtime routine. Your baby learns that bedtime's fun and has little trouble falling asleep since they're more tired at that later bedtime. Then, you move the bedtime earlier and earlier so that infants are forced to learn how to put themselves to sleep when they're less and less tired. A final method is known as scheduled awakenings. In this method, a parent wakes up a child 15 to 30 minutes before they usually wake up on their own in the middle of the night and then helps them fall back asleep. This is thought to disrupt their spontaneous awakenings, and the scheduled ones can later be phased out. Of course, as I've said before, only a fool wakes a sleeping baby, so I've never really fully understood scheduled awakenings, even though it does seem to work. Of course, even with fading and scheduled awakenings, it's possible that your baby will wake up in the middle of the night, scream, and then you're faced with the same choice of what to do. Go to them or wait it out. Some people always choose the former. They think that making a baby cry it out is inhumane and could even lead to future psychological problems. Others feel that giving in to a baby prevents them from learning needed skills and leads to later issues. The final thing parents can do is known as parental education. It's more preventive than actually treating a problem. Doctors talk to parents about things they can do to help infants fall asleep and to manage sleep problems before they actually occur. As a pediatrician, the first thing I do when confronted with this issue is try to calm the parents down. While this sometimes feels like a problem that will never go away, I try and remind them that few teens have this issue. They go to bed fine, and if they wake up in the middle of the night, they go back to sleep without anybody's help. This almost always eventually gets better. On the other hand, I don't want to minimize the short-term problems for parents, nor do I want to do nothing. Sleep deprivation leads to significant and serious consequences in adults, as we've discussed in many previous episodes. A 2008 study published in Pediatrics found that mothers of infants with sleep problems, where no intervention was tried, were more likely to report symptoms of clinical depression when their child was 2 years old. Sleep problems also lead to significant parental stress and potentially physical punishment for children. The good news is that almost all of these interventions work. In 2006, a systematic review was published in the journal Sleep that examined all the relevant research on the efficacy of these interventions versus each other and placebos. 94% of the 52 reviewed studies found that interventions led to improved sleep, and more than 80% of kids treated significantly improved over those not. The strongest evidence supported Extinction and parent education about sleep. Still, evidence existed that also supported graduated extinction, fading, and scheduled awakenings. People get surprisingly heated about which method to use. This isn't just because they think one works better than the other, but also because they think that some are harmful. They worry about the long-term effects of some of these methods. Those concerns may be overblown though. A small study published recently followed kids randomized to graduated extinction, fading, or parent education. Besides looking at the effectiveness of the intervention on sleep, they measured infants' salivary cortisol levels as a measure of stress, as well as mothers' mood and stress. Again, all of the interventions worked on sleep. More importantly, none of them caused any concerning levels of stress. This confirmed the findings of 2 previous studies that found that infant sleep problems and the interventions used to remedy them do not predict long-term outcomes even at 6 years of age. Parents stress about infants who don't sleep well. That's understandable. What they don't need to stress about is that fixing it will cause more harm than good or have long-term negative consequences. A good night's sleep makes almost everything better. Healthcare Triage is supported in part by viewers like you through Patreon.com, a service that allows you to support the show through a monthly donation. We'd especially like to thank our research associate Joe Sevitz and our Surgeon Admiral Sam. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Sam. More information can be found at patreon.com/healthcaretriage.